From age 22 to a few months before my 24th birthday, I lived without a home, in Northeast Tennessee. I'm doing better now. I eventually got another job and got back on my feet, but boy, Tennessee backcountry is not a fun place to be homeless. I lost my home initially because my roommate got busted for pot. I didn't smoke it, but because I lived there, I was caught up in it all. I served 3 months in the county jail. By the time I got out, I had been evicted. My landlord was kind enough to store my things in a storage unit, but I had to get them all out immediately. Since I had nowhere to live and nowhere to put it all, no family to drop back on, I just sold it all off. Most of it went in a yard sale type thing I did at the storage place, the rest went to pawn shops. The only things I kept were clothes, a big tarp, my Glock knife, and my guns. I only had 2, pick-related, and an old Winchester 37 break-action 20 gauge that was my grandmother's. Anybody want to hear my stories? I feel like I've lived a fairly /K/ experience without being military. Ask me anything.
Are you a prohibited person now that you have a drug offense?
I am not, luckily. Tennessee has very good fun laws. As long as you aren't a violent felon, you should be good. I was really surprised they were still there. I had them both locked in an old changing room style locker I got at the flea market. I guess they never went through the paperwork to get a warrant to open it since I wasn't the one who was getting in real trouble. Basically, my roommate bought a bag of weed in the presence of an undercover and they served him a warrant. I got one too since I was inhabiting a structure in which drugs are kept or sold, but I passed every drug test and told the truth through the whole thing. Yeah, I kinda threw my roomie under the bus a little, but we both agreed when we moved in that if he got caught with that shit, it was 100% on him and I was going to look out for my own ass. So yeah, got off really easy I think. Anyway, here is a story from my first night. 2 to 3 a.m. Sleeping outside the storage unit place. It's on a little one-lane road, because almost all the roads here are one lane besides the main road through town. It was a clear night and I wasn't worried about rain, so I pitched my tarp over the drain ditch by the road and tried to get some sleep. Just kind of laying there, on a makeshift bed of clothes, with my duffel acting as a pillow. Reflecting. Bad feels, miss my grams. Something walks over my tarp on the side bordering the road. Whatever. Just keep walking, man. See a guy, really skinny. Shitty, dirty jeans and a wife beater. Meth or crack? You decide. Hey buddy. Hey buddy. Under the tarp. Hello. What, bro? Come out and talk to me for a second, I wanna ask you something. Nah. I'm trying to sleep. You smoke? Nope. I mean the good shit. I don't smoke anything, 'cept these Marlboros nigga. At this point, I'm gripping the Glock knife. Wishing I had bullets. Forgot to mention, my bullets weren't there when my landlord was cleaning my shit out. Well, let me come under there and smoke real quick, I'll give you some. Oh my fuck. I don't want any, just leave me alone man, I gotta get some sleep. That's fucked up bro. I'd let you smoke in my tent. Please. It'll be real quick. He's walking toward the tent. I can't really stand up without wearing the tent like an umbrella pole. Scramble backwards, away from him but out from the tarp. Stand up, probably look ridiculous. All wild-haired, covered in wet grass. My knife is in my hand, but by my side. It's dark, the blade is black and I don't think he sees it. He does something I didn't expect. He just goes right under my tarp. Like he doesn't even see me. I'm pissed. That's my goddamn tarp hut, you inbred fuck. Inform him of this. What man? He yells. Stupid fuck stands right up, the tarp drapes around him like a sheet ghost. I advance toward him and grab the tarp. He steps back, grabs the other end of my tarp. Engage tug of war. He's losing. The guy is a skeleton and I've still got all my weight on me. Reaches behind him. What are ya, popo popo? Fuck you, nigger. Seriously, he called me nigger. I'm white. He turns around, takes off running. I'm on the ground fucking convulsing. I mean, I'm like almost seizure level shaking. Just kind of staring at the sky, every muscle in my body spasm. Think I've just been shot. Now, I die. Go black. Wake up. I'm fine. Tarp is fine. Everything is there. Find 22 casing on the ground. Son of a bitch tried to pop me with a 22 auto of some kind. So that was my first night homeless, you guys. So after I sold off my shit, I had already pretty much decided I wasn't going to try for a hotel. I had gotten about $700 total. I was already a perfect before I was homeless, hence the tourists. I knew that would only get me a few nights at a hotel, and they were all in the city anyway, a good hour's drive from town. I decided to hit up Walmart and stock up on some supplies. I got a little pop-up tent, a few packs of Bic lighters, ramen noodles, protein powder etc. Of course, I also got a box of Blazer 45s, and one of those turkey hunting utility belt things, with the big drawstring pouch and fanny pack. I got a box of birdshot 20 gauge for hunting, but I also had a big plastic bag of old ass shells from Grams. Most of them were cardboard instead of plastic. Probably from the 70s onward. A nice mix of birdshot, buck, and slugs she had collected over the years. Shells were probably the only resource I wasn't concerned about. So anyway, now I'm all geared up. Got my big Milsurp duffel o' clothes, my crazy ass redneck utility belt, and the stank of a man who's not showered in over a week. I was in a deeply stressed state of mind for obvious reasons. I wanted to just relax, finally, for a whole day. My feet hurt, and I was hungry. I walked from Walmart to the street I grew up on. We had a nice house on 2.5 acres, the backyard ended and it was just woods and mountain from there up. It also had a creek, and I knew from childhood exploration that you can follow it up the mountain to a nice little waterfall with a big rock overhang. The perfect spot for today. A secret fortress of solitude that surely I could be left alone to eat some goddamn ramen noodles in peace. Green text will follow. I thought this way would be better to explain how I ended up there and with what. Fast forward to waterfall. Probably 2 to 3 miles up the mountain. It's probably about 5 o'clock in the evening, but I didn't think to buy a watch, and after my phone died, I had no reliable source of time. Fuck it though. It's unbearably hot, middle of July in Tennessee. Very humid, just sticky, and awful. I set up my little tent, chopped some dryish wood up with my $8 Walmart hatchet. Grab tactical bar of Irish Spring. Hop in the water. It's about chest height where the waterfall hits the creek. Feels very good, man. Nice and cool, soap smells awesome. Finally feel human. Boil up a fresh batch of ramen. Talkin' 2 packs my nigga. Feel like a king. It's funny, I genuinely remember this fondly. I felt amazing. The broth was hot, and salty, and nourishing. Best meal of my life. Night falls. This time, if anybody sneaks up on me, I've got buckshot for 'em. Confident, cozy. I start drifting to sleep listening to the fire. I'm awoken by a loud splash. I didn't really recognize at first that that's what I had heard. Just a vague noise in the night. I had my eyes open, looking out the mesh of the tent. Something big moves in the darkness. The fire is out now, but my eyes adjust well to the dark so I could see all right. Can't make it out. It's turning around, I can hear it snorting and huffing, and it's big. The real niggas here probably can guess. A large black bear is drinking out of the creek. Suddenly understand why everybody says not to make camp too close to the stream. White-knuckled on my shotgun, I'm doubting if a 20-gauge shot shell would do fucking anything to this guy. Quietly get my .45 out from my turkey holster. Have no actual idea what I'm gonna do, but I know that black bears aren't generally aggressive. I've seen them before, I have always been an avid camper. The way my luck had been lately, though. I wasn't taking any chances. So the bear has turned around now, and he's sniffing. He's sniffing hard. The only food I had was ramen noodles in the packet. I burned the trash from the ones I ate, and washed my pot in the sink. Feeling a bit confident now. I slowly sit up into a low squat, my head touching the top of the tent. Aim my .45. My logic was I'd rather have 8 shots that probably won't do anything than 1 shot that probably won't do anything. My plan is, if it tried to get in, or puts his face at the mesh, to just unload on him and tactically shit my pants. Hope for the best. Bear my soul to Valhalla. Hee. He's getting closer to camp, when I see the grave mistake I made. My fucking bowl and fork are sitting there like unwashed peasants. God fucking damn it, Anon. He's intrigued, starts licking bowl. He follows the scent, comes right up to my tent. Alright Anon, get ready. Finger on the trigger. I'm shitting cinder blocks. He sniffs the ground in front of the mesh, and I'm psyching myself up, saying, if he touches the mesh, fire. If he touches the mesh, fire, just over and over. He sees me, and I see him seeing me. We look at each other for what seems like a long time. He was tense, and so was I. Neither of us knew what to do, I think. I could see his sides expanding with heavy breath. They say black bears aren't very big, but when you're one dude in a little pup tent looking it in the eyes, it seems pretty fucking huge. I'm imagining how big its claws are. Probably comically bigger than in reality. The tension is getting to me. Sweat in my eyes, I just want something to happen. I summon every ounce of courage in my body, and let loose a thundering battle cry. Gah! Git! Go on! He fucking backs up and fucks off. I hear him crashing away for a good 3 to 4 minutes. This would not be the last time I encountered Sir Berenstein. And for the guy that asked, I got a job by befriending a cashier at the convenience store I bought shit from. He let me use his address on my applications and clean up in the store bathroom before interviews. He really got me out of a huge jam. Can't thank him enough. Gas station cashiers are bros. So I liked the waterfall spot regardless of my bear encounter. I spent 4 straight days there just shooting squirrels and living off of squirrel ramen stew. I even caught a rabbit. One afternoon, I also caught about a dozen crawdads out of the creek and boiled them up. They were pretty good with the Frank's Red Hot I brought from Walmart. I didn't really have a plan at this point, and I was in a very, let's say, primal state of mind. All of my thoughts were about my next meal, if the firewood was getting low. This sort of thing. I drank straight from the spring where the creek originates from. It was nice and cold all the time, and very clean. This is in the Cherokee National Forest, or I guess more accurately, just outside of it. So I'm going on like this, and I'm scouting out other good spots I can use, so I'm not in the same place all the time and risk capture. I should mention, I'm extremely paranoid at this point. I haven't had an actual, real conversation with literally anybody since I got out of jail. Still didn't miss county lockup though. General pop full of redneck shit kickers and freaks. Find a thicket, a circle of dogwood trees with an empty center. It looked perfect, very discreet. I wasn't sure if I was on somebody's land or not, so discretion was key. I didn't want to venture far from a good water source like the spring. Decide to stay there for the night to try it out. Sorry if I'm a little slow. I'm eating dinner while I write this. I set up my tent, scrape out a little fire pit. I didn't think about needing a digging tool, so I would use my hatchet to sort of dredge it out. As the sun is setting, I'm boiling the collected bones of my small game into a broth. Might as well top chef this shit. I'm almost out of ramen. I'm dreading hiking back to civilization, back to all their judgmental faces. Get a job, get a life. Yeah. Before I left town, I had been out barely a week, and people could already tell. This being the small town that it is, too, lots of people know who I am. I imagine, over and over, all the conversations everybody back there must be having, but probably weren't, about me. The stress and loneliness had started turning to a bitter anger. I had been using a string of beer/soup cans I'd collected from farther down the mountain as a makeshift alarm. String it up around my pup, then cuddle in with my shotgun and add the meat and wild onions to the broth. Smells good, man. Eat, meditate, sleep. I wake up feeling unusually rested. I perform my morning ritual of stretching and drinking cool water from my jug. As I'm stretching, I bend my back deeply and look up, really up for the first time. I hadn't noticed it the day before, or it wasn't there the day before, but there was a very thick, very dense net of spider webs about 4 feet up from my head. I had a pet tarantula once, and that fucker hated me and I hated him. Fuck spiders. Still, this seemed like a really good spot. I wasn't about to let these cretins take that away from me. These are my trees now, god damn it. I am the apex predator. I gathered my things and piled it all outside the ring of trees. I got a stick, and stuffed a bunch of dry leaves into a sock, and stretched the sock around the top. I taped it shut, and boom. The world's dumbest torch. Squirt lighter fluid into / on bottom layer of webs. Hose down my torch. Commence the purge. I light the torch. A part of me hopes this stupid thing I'm doing will just engulf me in flaming spiders and I die. Gram didn't raise no quitter though. I full on Spartan charged into the trees and heaved my mighty torch. The whole thing goes up in flames. It falls down, expectedly. However, I hadn't counted on it falling on me. I hadn't thought this through. My mind was in a reckless state. So I'm swatched in burning spider web. This is not what I wanted after all. Stumble out of trees, stop, drop, and roll. Luckily, the web burned up really quickly. My shirt was pretty blackened and I could smell burning hair, but I was okay. Pretty fucking burnt, though. More on that later. I look back into the trees, and everything is gone. The webs had burned up and luckily hadn't caught anything else. I wasn't that worried I would burn the forest down since it's so humid and everything is so green, but still. I was glad. I notice everything is quiet, and my stomach just drops. I write it off as paranoia. What, did I anger some spider witch? No, I was going crazy, is all. Still, I felt really uneasy, like I shouldn't have destroyed the web. Fuck it. Rule of the jungle. I shall now claim my prize and set up camp again. Tomorrow, I'll go into town and blow my last $50. Night falls, I'm just chilling drinking some reheated broth. Wishing I had a book, or something. Anything to do. You don't think having to rough it can get boring, but once night falls and there's nothing more that can be done, you're just alone with your thoughts. So I'm reclined back on a log, fire is crackling and everything seems well. I'm listening to the crickets, and they stop. I'm half asleep, pretty relaxed, but I'm on edge enough that it sets me off immediately. I grab my shotgun, which is basically a reflex at this point. I keep it loaded with a slug now, feels safer than the buck. Footsteps. Regular ones though, like the person wasn't trying to sneak up on me or anything. I wondered how well the fire was showing through the tree line. I knew I was probably trespassing, so I was also worried about that. People will absolutely shoot you for being on their land around here, and they will get away with it. No fucks are generally given when it comes to these good old boys. He walks right up through the tree line. I probably looked like a ghost, because I was genuinely afraid. He could be the police, he could be a serial killer, or a junkie. Anybody. It's a pretty well-dressed guy, and I mean in the blue-collar sense. He's probably in his mid to late 50s, really short cropped gray hair under a brown ball cap. Short-sleeved blue plaid shirt under a shooting vest, the kind with the big leather pad on the shoulder/chest. Carhartt jeans, clean, new-looking work boots. I'm just stupefied. I've got my shotgun in my lap but I'm not touching it. I had instinctively raised my hands up in case it was a cop. Who the hell are you? Do you have permission to be here? He's shouting, but he asked if I had permission to be there, so I guessed he wasn't the landowner. Maybe a friend or neighbor or something. No, I'm sorry. I'll go. I don't want trouble. Now, at this point I realize he's not carrying a flashlight, and I never saw light through the trees. I start to stand up, not thinking about it. I grabbed my shotgun as I stood, to leave. Whoa whoa whoa, the guy screams. He's got that cop tone of voice, you know the one. He's yelled that a lot before, and I could tell. So, a cop? Where is his uniform? What is he doing out here? He draws compact Glock from ib. Points it right at me. Finger on the trigger. I've been to jail, I'm not fucking with weird cops. I drop the shotgun and raise my hands. Don't shoot. I just want to go. Please let me go. My voice is cracking and raspy. I haven't used it in some time now. Just wait right there, buddy, I want to talk to you. How long have you been in this area? Only tonight. I don't have a place to live right now, so I'm camping. I thought this was national forest. I lied. So did you tear down that web? That was not yours to destroy. Tell me who the fuck you think you are. Guy is red in the face. He's fucking mad and I'm scared. I'm going to get shot for real this time. I know it. Nah man. I swear. There were no webs when I got here. I don't know what you're talking about. Well mister, do you know that those were a protected species? That's right. I can have you thrown in prison for the rest of your life, buddy. I'm thinking, what the fuck? Something isn't right here. I didn't even see a single spider in that web, and this guy is just walking out here with no light in the middle of the night to check on them? In plain clothes? What the fuck? Man, I told you I don't know nothing about no damn webs. Can I please just go? Please. He studies me for a moment, and looks back behind him. He turns back around and his face isn't red anymore. You aren't going anywhere, pal. Take a seat while I call for backup. Do not move. He waves for me to sit on the far side of the fire, opposite of my tent and my gun. He doesn't know my fanny pack of justice holds .45 caliber freedom. So I'm sitting there wondering what I should do. Do I try to run? Draw on him? What if he really is a cop? And speaking of which, he hasn't once identified himself as anything. So, with all due respect, can I ask who you are, sir? He looks at me with a very strange contempt. Like I was a cockroach that crawled on his breakfast. Right now I am detaining you. Just sit still and don't ask questions. He makes a short phone call with one of those big sad phones, which makes no sense to me because where we are, he should still have cell signal. He sits down on my log and unloads my shotgun. Do you have any other weapons? Just my knife, and my hatchet. Knife is in the tent, hatchet is beside you in the grass there. All right, son. So what did you say you were doing out here again? Give him the whole story again, about needing a place to stay and not knowing I was anywhere important. I get ballsy. So what's up with these spiders? Pretty rare, huh? He looks down, into the fire. He does not answer. So, you got backup coming? Is it a chopper or an ATV or something? Something. Shut up. Want your soup? Yes, please. He brings the pot over to me and sits it in front of me. No spoon. I don't bother asking. Thanks, I guess. I'd guess about half an hour goes by. I'm getting antsy. Guy seems totally calm now. He's just looking up at the tree line constantly, looking all around. For the spiders maybe? I don't know. After while, he stands up. He walks left of the tent to the tree line, opposite the way he came in, and starts looking around, craning his neck and his back. When his vest goes up, I see that he's got mace, cuffs, and an extra mag all side by side on his lower back. Shit, nigger. He whistles into the darkness and waves to come forward. Oh Lord in heaven, what do you have in store for me now? A shorter, chubby little guy comes out of the trees. He's dressed just like the first guy, only his hat has a forestry service patch and his shirt is white with long sleeves. Same vest and jeans, though. This relaxes me a little. Maybe it's just a weird sort of uniform. The patch makes me feel better. He looked official, he had a short goatee and was wearing a full-size Glock on a gun belt. He had what looked like a Remington 700 slung around his shoulder, on his back. So he tore down the web? Yeah. I think so. That guy? He points at me, that's the one. Why would he do that? He looks at me. Why would you do that? I didn't. They were gone when I got here. All right, smart guy. Where is it? The web. Where is the web? I told you I don't know. Look, can I just leave? Please. I really just want to leave. I'm freaking the fuck out. This is really wrong. Why don't either of them have flashlights? The little guy turns to the big guy and says, "All right, keep him here until they build a new one, just to be safe." I really don't want to do that. Just do it, all right? Work with me, Andy. Well, all right. You got it, buddy. The short guy just walks off with that. I'm so confused. Did I accidentally eat some kind of brain parasite and I'm tripping nuts right now? What the fuck is wrong with these guys? At this point, I'm fed up with this situation. As soon as Andy turns his back, I'm splitting. I can come back for my stuff later, but that shit isn't worth my life. So we're sitting there, and he's feeding the fire. I think he was trying to get it as bright as possible in there. As the light grows, I can see him better, and the facade starts coming apart. I see stubble, I see bloodshot eyes with heavy bags, I see mud and dirt on his clothes. This definitely isn't okay. I wait for my chance, for him to crane his neck up again and check the tree lean like he's been doing. I see my chance, and I fucking book it. I leap up as quickly as I can and ran in a random direction. I thought I was being sneaky, like it would make it harder for him to follow me. I'm sprinting downhill, through the brambles and briars. My burns from the web are killing me, but I don't stop. I've got my .45 out, just running blind through the dark. I don't hear him behind me anymore when I hit water. Good. The creek. I know the creek, I know this area. I grew up here. I follow it down, I know if I keep following it, there is a cabin my old neighbors used to own. I didn't know if anybody owned it now, but fuck it. Either it would be an empty place to hole up, or there would be people there that might help or at least serve as witnesses and de-escalate the situation. I reach the cabin, the windows are black but there is a beat-up Jeep Wrangler in the dirt driveway, branching off from the access road. I knock, loudly. I knock again. Nothing. I made the tactical decision to break in. Maybe not that smart of an idea, but I was desperate. I kicked the door, right below the handle with everything I had. I had to kick it 3 or 4 times for it to finally cave. I go in and search for a light switch. Nothing. No power. Figures, it's just on a generator. Nobody must be staying here right now. I get my cheap little plastic flashlight out of my turkey belt and scan the room. I was wrong. Mats on the floor, cans of food open and laying around. Some old shoes. Some old pants. Some old shirts. A map. Shotgun shells. A radio. A forestry service badge. Newspapers, with old, brown blood on them. A rusty knife. Propane tanks. 2-liter bottles. Aluminum foil. Empty boxes of Sudafed. What in the living fuck have I gotten myself into? Now, this isn't one of those cliché stories where I stay the night in the cabin anyway. I have an inkling of an idea of what's going on. Meth heads, I can deal with. Meth heads are something I understand pretty well. I tried the radio, obviously nothing. Dead power source. I know there is a deer stand near the cabin, so I head there. I climb up, the old wooden slats nailed into the tree feel like they are going to give way. I sit up in the stand, and I wait. I wasn't going to leave my shit, but I sure as fuck wasn't going back there right now. So I wait. I'm in the tree probably 1 or 2 hours, by now the sky is turning that deep blue that signals morning soon. The crickets are once again silenced by stomping feet. Again, no lights, but my eyes are well adjusted and I can see them. It's the 2 guys, they are walking to the cabin. I just don't get it. Who would knock down those spiders like that? Those are our fucking spiders, Andy. I know. You just can't trust people anymore. Everybody is bad. That's why we have to live up here like this, because you can't trust anybody. Anybody. The world is in a sad state, I'm telling you. You know the liberals would have us all in gulags and the Republicans can't get anything done anymore. It's all just a mess. The guys are tweaked out on meth, talking like somebody's uncle at the barber shop. They go inside and I see a light come on. Probably a lantern, judging by the numbers of windows it lit up. I knew they were tucked in for the night, probably getting whacked out of their heads. I sneak down the stand, and tiptoe back to the creek where the water will cover my sounds. Head back to the trees. My tent is stomped on and all my shit is rummaged through. My socks are gone, and obviously my shotgun. My knife was still there though, and my food. Hoo boy. Gotta get my shotgun back. Decide fuck sleeping. I am so goddamn sick of everybody fucking me over, everybody trying to take my shit or hurt me or lock me up. I decided then and there that if I had to kill these men to get my shit back, then that's what I will do. The common Tennessee meth head is much like the vampire. They must sleep through to build strength for a long night of tweaking and thieving. I do my best Solid Snake impression back to the cabin and peek in the windows from a little ways up the hill. I can see them in there, just sitting on the floor. Both of their mouths are just jabbering, like they are both having conversations with different, invisible people. Go in a little closer. I can see my socks, covered in paint, with cans on the floor around them. Niggas go hard in it. I watch them from the windows, pistol in hand. Eventually, they look like they've passed out. I can make my move, now. I go to the door. They had scooted a chair against it to keep it shut after I kicked it in. It made a loud noise, they didn't move. Situational awareness is not a known trait of the junkie. I take 4 seconds looking around the room. It's 2-room cabin, so it's mostly just one big area. See Graham's shotgun. Did they hurt you? Did they molest you? I weep for you, Gam Gam. I check the tube. Shell is loaded. Where are the rest? Looking around, shotgun low ready. I'm checking the kitchen cabinets when I hear one of them move. Whip around, see him seeing me. We both kinda jump. I raise Gam Gam's shotgun. Sputter out, don't. It's more of a gasp than a shout. He looks scared. He's just standing there, arms out. Chubby guy still passed out on the floor. His expression gives me courage. Finally, I have the upper hand, now. Don't fucking move, man. I should kill you. Don't you dare fucking move. Where is my shit? I just want my shit and I'll leave, etc. I'm hyped as fuck on adrenaline. I've never in my life held a gun on somebody. It's a situation I never once thought I would ever be in. For a moment I felt my gut clench. It was really weird and totally surreal. How did I get here? What the fuck is all this insanity? A month ago I had an apartment and a job, and now I'm strong-arm robbing a meth head. What? What? He just kept asking, what? Looks bewildered as fuck. He was probably still feeling that shake and bake meth / spray paint combo. Chubby guy is stirring. He gets up, but he gets up way too fast for my state of panic. Point and fire Gam's shotgun. I didn't hit him, and I wasn't really trying to deep down. In my head, I felt like I did, but I do remember a part of me being glad I hadn't shot him. Hole in the floor, chubby dude is back against the wall, stretched out with this rock-solid expression of shock. It was like a cartoon almost. You ever ride a roller coaster and it takes a picture of you at a certain point? Everybody's face? It was like that, but just stiff and motionless. Like a statue. That face has stuck with me ever since. Older guy is against the wall too, but he's mumbling really fast and low, something about he's diabetic and he needs insulin, and something else about chemical attack at the base and having to fall back to the cabin for shelter. What the fuck? My ears are ringing. That was another first, firing a gun while indoors. I'm convinced this permanently damaged my hearing. I never used to have to ask people to repeat themselves before, but I do it constantly now. My head is just swimming. It felt like I had a migraine. My eyes seemed like they were popping out of my head. Hold shotty in left hand, draw 45 in right. Step around their bedding areas and look for weapons, then keep looking for my shells. I picked up his gun belt, with that nice Glock, but then I dropped it immediately. Fingerprints. Fingerprints. These guys obviously weren't forestry servicemen. My guess is they stole the shit from a forestry outpost / station / whatever, or they actually robbed some servicemen. If they had robbed them, and were still here, they either just did it and the gauntlet hasn't come down yet, or they killed them, and nobody knew. Either way, it was some seriously fucked up business. While keeping my 45 pointed towards them, I immediately stamp on the part of the gun belt where my fingertips have been and rubbed it into the floor mat. What? The meth head asks one more time. This takes me by surprise and I end into the wall between them, scaring the shit out of both of them. Try to play it off as a warning shot, demand they cut the shit and tell me what the fuck their deal is with that spider web, and let them know I torched the whole fucking thing because this is my forest. The wind blows open the door, we got on the floor and everybody walked the dinosaur.
What the fuck?
False alarm, folks.
The walls are closing in. I don't know how long I have until one of them tries something. I quickly check the other room and find my bag of shells, and some of my socks. As I'm leaving, I figure, I should probably fuck with them a little bit. You just robbed an undercover FBI agent, pal. I'm coming back and I won't be alone, you dumb motherfucker. Duck the fuck out. I followed the creek some more, this time farther up the mountain than I'd ever gone. I found some bushes, covered myself with branches and passed out. I was exhausted, slept throughout the day and the preceding night. The spring didn't seem as safe anymore, but there are creeks everywhere through here. I stuck with them for a long while, but I always stayed far the fuck away from the road unless I was going into town. Anybody still reading? So I started to get a routine. I tried to apply for a few jobs when I went into town, but not having an address really put a dent in things. I didn't have the money for a post office box, so I just sort of existed. I was on the list for day labor, but usually there were so many people showing up that year, I rarely got any work. I got on food stamps, which helped so much. It was tricky picking items that suited my nomadic lifestyle, but I did pretty good. Stuff like dry rice and beans, coffee. I bought a cheapo camp pot from Walmart with my day wages, powdered soups, canned tuna, and of course, ramen. The food stamps were really a lifesaver. Don't know if I would have made it without it. One can only eat squirrel for so long. To answer about the drinking, yeah, I did that. I'm not ashamed, because I didn't drink every night, as I went long periods of time with literally no money. I was very lonely, and living in an ever-deteriorating pop-up tent in the woods. After 6 months, the tent was mostly duct tape and supplemented with my trusty tarp. Things got pretty rough out there. So I'll start off today during my first winter. Approximately 5 to 7 months since my first night outside, so between December and February. We had a bad winter that year, I think 2010 or 2011, it snowed a lot, but mostly just really cold, icy rain and sludge. I had begun a dugout-style shelter in Cherokee National Forest, probably 6 to 8 miles up the mountain from the street I grew up on in my tiny little backwoods town. What I did was dig out about 3 to 4 feet into the side of a hill over the course of a month. I used a cheap, short shovel from Tractor Supply, and my trusty Walmart hatchet for roots. My pup tent was basically in shreds now, but it was better than nothing. I would put the tent against the far wall of the dugout and then stretch my tarp in front and over top of it. It wasn't a bad little shelter. I used thick branches and duct tape to make a shitty U-frame to help support the branches I eventually added across the top of the tarp. Later on I added extra leaves/brambles/mud to fill in the spaces. It turned into a fairly comfortable winter shelter, though it was still intensely cold at night and especially in the early mornings, when I was just waking up. That cold gets into your bones, you warm up throughout the day, but it's hard to describe. Like you're frozen through and partially thaw out during your daily routine, but you never really cook. This first winter was probably my most desperate time while homeless. The snow on the mountain was thick enough that walking to town to get supplies seemed impossible, and at the same time, the small game I had been counting on had all but dried up. It was winter though, so deer were still plentiful. I hadn't hunted one yet at this point, all I had was pick-related, Gamgam's Winchester 37 in 20 gauge, and a Taurus 1911. Needless to say, these are not good winter hunting options. I had to get a rifle, or a compound bow, or something. My life might depend on it. Waited for a warm day, snow is melting, still slushy and shitty though. Make the trek to the road below. This takes longer than usual due to slipping around in the mud. Spent at least 3 or 4 hours, finally get there. I wrap my shotgun in trash bags and tape, climb halfway up a tree and stash it, try to cover it as best I can with foliage. I do this now because, even though open carry of unloaded long arms is legal, in my unshaven, unkempt, and mostly unwashed state, I was obviously homeless. Police would stop me all the time, ask where I got it, etc. I was scared it would be confiscated somehow. I've grown a very tight connection to it by now, after all. It was my safety blanket, my little piece of home. It must be protected at all costs. Cannot risk walking around outside of the woods with it. Still see my sidearm, illegally I might add. I may still be able to legally own my guns, but there was no way I was getting a CCW right now. I know this seems stupid to most folks, but understand the sort of constant unease and fear I was living under. Paranoia had set in long ago, and now it had been cemented into my psyche to the point that I still feel its effects today. Walk to pawn shop. Friendly with the owner, he is sympathetic to my plight and we shoot the shit about guns on my trips in. Have $200 saved from day laboring. I'm very good at not spending money now, what with food stamps and having a semi-permanent shelter. Ask him what he can do for me. Offer him squirrel and rabbit pelts as a bonus. He's annoyed, I can tell, but I'm desperate. He knows it, too. Tell ya what. Keep your pelts, give me the $200. You can shovel my driveway and we'll call it even. Hands me a well-used Savage 308. The rifling is pretty bare, some rust along the barrel, but overall, it'll shoot. So I've got this 308 now. He threw in a dozen or so loose rounds he had for himself. I was apprehensive about walking back to my stash with it, so, open bolt, hold by the middle, in offhand. Barrel pointed down. Avoided the road, walked the train track as far as I could, then kept just inside the tree line. Got to stash, wrapped new rifle up and stashed it too. I forgot to mention, the rifle had no sights, no scope. Wasn't sure how well I would even be able to hit anything. Head back into town, stock up on more powdered soup and beef jerky with food stamps. Waited till pawn shop closed at 5, rode with owner to his house and shoveled his driveway as promised. He brought me some meatloaf and mac and cheese his family had for dinner in aluminum foil. Tasted like heaven. Ate it while he drove me back to my stash. No fork. No fucks. He's a really good guy, honestly. There are a few good folks in this town. Grab funds. At first I tried just carrying both, but that got cumbersome. I ended up putting the Savage in my duffel and drawing the string around the grip. The stock still stuck out, but fuck it. Woods. It got dark while I was still hiking. I can't accurately describe how miserable it was, hiking up muddy, sloshy forest terrain. No trail, just following the creek, which was mostly frozen as well. I needed new boots. I was still wearing the same old steel toes I had before I went to jail. A nice hole had dug into the sole of my right foot, so it was constantly cold and soggy. After a while, it went numb. Finally made it back to my shelter. Lit a fire with the small amount of wood I kept dry with me under my tarp. That feel when you put nearly frostbitten toes next to a warm fire. I'm bundled up, Dickies jeans on top of sweatpants on top of long johns, 2 t-shirts, a hooded sweatshirt and a big wool overcoat. Cheap jersey work gloves. The kind in 3 packs at the gas station for like $2. Doubled up on them, then wool fingerless inserts over that. It's really strange, some of the times I look back on fondly. This was one of them. By now, stuff like TV and Facebook, microwaves, and even a solid roof were like things of the past. I was getting pretty used to the life, enough that now I found myself really enjoying these small comforts. I had bought a few paperbacks, and kept getting the 2 packs of legal pads when I had extra money. I would write things, like dreams I had, or just rants about the world. A lot of angry, lonely stuff. When a legal pad got full, instead of carrying it around with me, I would wrap it in plastic and bury them. I don't know why I did this. During this time, I was a very paranoid, manic person. I feel like I completely lost my mind on that mountain. Anyway, somewhere in Cherokee National Forest there are a string of legal pads buried in shallow holes filled with an increasingly hateful and nihilistic manifesto. I described my rules for living, recipes for various stews and things I'd cooked up using squirrel, raccoons, wild onions, and whatever else I scrounged up. I was drinking, too. I never used to drink, before I was homeless, but like another poster in the original thread pointed out, it's honestly hard to avoid. You search for something, anything, to help cope with the loneliness and the bleak, day in day out monotony of life without any purpose other than survival. I spent a lot of cold, lonely nights clutching Gam's shotgun, drinking Old Crow and reading thrift store paperbacks. I had an abridged version of Moby Dick, some Hardy Boys, Robinson Crusoe, even a few Agatha Christie mysteries. Nothing I particularly enjoy, I just bought them because they were less than a quarter. After the sun set every night, there was nothing more that could be done, so you just sit and read and drink. I drank hot whiskey a lot. Hot whiskey. Sometimes I still crave it. I would mix it with a little water and leave it on the fire in my coffee pot until it got good and steamy, and drank it down. It was very soothing. Whiskey already warms you up, but hot whiskey warms up your soul. It's the thing I looked forward to most during my daily toils. The winter was very quiet. No birds, obviously. Most of the wildlife was tucked away hibernating. It got unnerving a lot, the silence. If I wasn't hunting, I would walk around and sing little songs. Just making things up, about the trees I saw or stuff I remembered from the past. The coat I wore was ill-fitting. I didn't really have a good winter parka before I went to jail, so I had to get the warmest looking thing that fit at the Salvation Army. It was a woman's coat, but it was made for a very large woman. One of those big, long thick gray and black checkered coats. Something you might see an overweight 70-year-old woman at church wear. It had some kind of fake pearl embroidery around the lapel. I was beyond worrying about how I looked, though. I had to have been quite a sight though. Like I killed an old lady and took her clothes. My mossy oak turkey belt had seen better days. I used 2 belts, one an actual leather belt, the other was a fleece belt from a bathrobe I found on the side of the road one day. I secured them around the back and front of the belt, and looped them over my shoulders so it was like a makeshift pouch carrier. I had added a few extra things to it. One was a pouch I found that looked like it was for one of those big plastic cameras from the 90s, and I had a couple Crown Royal bags I got out of the trash tied to it that I kept change, little rocks. I kept neat-looking rocks. Sue me, just any little thing I wanted to keep. I tried to keep my pockets empty where I layered my pants. I kept anything I thought could be of use. Lots of stuff ended up being useless, and I realize now I was basically hoarding forest trash. I feel like I'm rambling, but aside from the sparse moments of panic, like the gunplay that I described in the last thread, the slow, dredging winters were the absolute worst. If I can communicate anything about the homeless backwoods experience, it's the isolation and desperation. People in town will shun you for the most part, and you go days, often weeks, without ever speaking to another human. I felt more like an animal of some kind than a man. Something wearing a man's skin, stalking the woods in an endless effort to consume and survive. I kept thinking, just gotta get that deer, then I can start getting things together. Just gotta get to town, get some supplies, then I can pick myself up. I lied to myself in this way. I was constantly trying to convince myself that, after just a little while longer, things will go back to normal and I'll be a regular guy again. If I wasn't doing this, then I was wrapped up in fantasies about thriving out here. I'll build a cabin, I said. I'll build a nice cabin with a fireplace and a cozy little window, and I'll hunt and fish and never have to go back to that wretched society. In fact, I didn't want to go back. I chose this. This is how I want to live. I'm doing fine. Doing great. I'm the happiest I've ever been, etc. It was all bullshit, but again, anything for that little ounce of comfort. I thought about suicide sometimes too, during that awful winter. When I let myself go and drank half a bottle, I was very conservative with my liquor. It was a precious thing that must be savored. I would lay back, in the dark, under my tarp. Think about just putting the barrel in my mouth Cobain style and ending it. What difference would it make? I thought about my body freezing up until the spring, when the bears wake up and they'd gnaw on my freezer-burnt body. Maybe some hunters or something would find me, festering and bloated under a tarp in the summer heat. The freeze would make it hard to discover who I am. Why bother? The hunters I invented would say. He's obviously nobody. Just leave him for the animals, they'd say. My body would decay and the forest could just have me. I would be here forever. It was comforting and horrifying at the same time. Luckily, I never got so dark as to do it. I have been fortunate in having a strong sense of survival instilled in me from a young age. My grandparents were both farmers until the last 10 or so years of their lives. They had to sell it a long time ago, couldn't keep up the payments and moved to a cheaper house with a small yard. My grandfather died years before my grandmother did. I'd like to tell you about my strong, awesome granddad teaching me to shoot and hunt, but honestly, that was all Grandma. Grandpa was from Baltimore, he joined the Marines but never went to war. Met my grandmother while she was visiting some relatives there and they ended up getting hitched. They moved here because she already had some land. She was a country girl, and I mean the old school kind. She slaughtered most of the animals, cleaned and cooked them. He worked for Geico in the 80s, working on their old DOS systems, then at the local newspaper on the printing press until his retirement. She stayed home and raised me. We would shoot rabbits that got into our crops. She showed me how to skin and cook them, how to stretch and clean furs for preservation. I really loved that farm. Regretfully, they had taken a mortgage out on it to help with money and eventually fell behind. My extended family on my grandfather's side sort of bled them dry, always borrowing but never giving back. Car trouble? Need groceries? Short on rent? Ask Gam Gam. She'd give you the shirt off her back. Gam Gam died 2 years before I became homeless. She had a stroke and spent an agonizing month and a half between hospitals and home. I had to quit my job to stay home and care for her. I'm rambling again. Rip Gam. One day, I'll give your shotgun to my son. So it's a few months into the winter and spring is starting to show. In the afternoons, when the sun is high, it got to be in the low to mid-50s. It was warmer, farther down the mountain, but I grew more and more resentful of the world below every day, so I was going down into town as little as possible. Once or twice a month, tops. I didn't have a hunting license, and deer season was well over at this point. I had done well with the dozen .308 rounds I had acquired before. I had probably 3 or 4 left now, so I had to hunt very carefully. I didn't have sights on my rifle, so what I would do was sit cross-legged in a bush all day. My clothes were caked in mud and I had given up trying to wash myself for the winter. Creek is far too cold. I wasn't worried about my scent. Wait there, all day. I'd bring a snack and sometimes a book. Sometimes, some whiskey. All depended on my mood and the weather. I kept dry corn now to use as bait. Sprinkle it a few yards from where I am. Doe approaches. Small, probably 50 pounds, give or take. Just a baby. A delicious baby. Aim. I can do okay from small distances, but I've only been able to fire this rifle maybe 8 times. Not a lot of room for practice, and again, no sights. I aimed for her heart. Got her neck. You know what happens. She takes off, thick drops of blood steaming on the cold ground as she ran. She's bleeding heavily. I know she won't be able to run long. Start following the trail. It's not hard, snow is still hanging around and it's still cold enough that the blood keeps up a good steam for a while. Come into a clearing. I see her laying down across the field, she's bleeding and convulsing. Dying. I think about how scared she must be. I'm sorry I had to do it this way. I would have liked to kill you clean, but it can't be avoided now. I'm walking across the field, debating on if I should slit her throat, or just put a .45 in her head and be done. Probably the knife. Ammunition must be conserved. Food. Bang. What? Food. Bang. There was echoing a bit, so I knew they had some distance. It wasn't until the second time that I realized I was being shot at. I don't know how close you have to be to a bullet to hear it whizzing past you, but I didn't want to find out. I heard the bullets first, the shot second. Freeze for a minute. No FFT, just a bang this time. Dive into the brambles, scramble behind a tree. That feel when I don't even know which way they are shooting from. That feel when I could be sitting here in full view. Wait for 20 seconds. 30 seconds. Heart is pounding. Why is somebody shooting at me? Somebody mad about me poaching? Somebody else poaching, and they want my kill? It's quiet for a while. I try my luck and peek around the tree. I see orange in the distance. It's behind the tree lean to the clearing, but I saw it move. Time to test if they are still watching. Hop from my tree to adjacent tree. Peek out and look. Muzzle flash. FFT. Bang. Holy shit. Okay. Okay. What do I do? Sprint forwards, away from the grove, in front of another tree. Wait for noise. Nothing. I don't know if the person is advancing, or waiting. Did he see me pull back? Does he know where I am? I'm sure as fuck not peeking my head around the corner again and catching a bullet. Sprint forward again, I'm heading downhill, slide until a little embankment caused by tree roots in the mud. My foot is unusually wet. The sole of my boot has come off halfway. Perfect. I hear movement behind me. Is it him? Deliberate steps, coming through the brush. Decide to call out. I don't know who the fuck you are, but I'm armed and I'll shoot. Just back off, you can have the damn deer, I don't care. Silence. Switch my rifle into my duffel, grab Gam's shotty. Thumb back the hammer. I hear footsteps again. He's going to have to come around the embankment, or pop up above me, for him to get at me. Either way, he'll have to be close unless he backtracks and makes a wide flank. Silence again. Was he retreating? Did he know I was armed before I just told him? Waiting again. I feel mildly defensible here, I'm too scared to try to run just yet. Patience. Timing has to be just right, I told myself. Remember the BB gun wars with your cousins. Pretend it's a game. Don't shit your pants. Branches snapping to the far left of me. Look over. Polyester camo puff vest and a hunter's orange beanie. Are you serious? I'm not getting flanked by Elmer Fudd. Scramble forward, as I'm running the 30 to 40 feet between me and the next tree, I fire birdshot in his general direction. Hit the tree hard. Sweating in the cold. Guy shouts out, I must have peppered him a little. Probably not enough to really do any damage, but I hope I at least fucked him up a little bit. Eject shell. Grab one out of the big turkey pouch and load it. Don't even look at what it is. Could be bird, could be buck. I had already used up the few slugs I had. My shells were starting to run thin since it's my primary hunting gun. Small game and that. Close the breech and listen. Bang. 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 3 shots, with a few seconds in between. Must be using a bolt action of some kind. Didn't get a look at his rifle yet. I know he can't see or hit me from here, if he is still where he was. I haven't heard him move, so I assume he still is. Must be trying to scare me out. Not this nigga.jpg. Squat down. Try to think up my next move. He's gonna be mad now that I tagged him, since he's clearly not giving up. I can still hear that poor deer crying from yards away. Look around. I see another low hill that looks like good cover, across the incline probably 70 to 80 yards. Steel myself. Say a silent prayer to forest gods and set off sprinting. Making good distance, trying to zigzag but mostly just trying to get to cover as quickly as possible. He doesn't fire at me while I'm moving, and I don't look back. Just get to that hill. The sole of my boot is flapping around beneath me. My 4 pairs of socks are soaked through and I'm getting stabbed by sticks and rocks. Try to pretend I'm Bruce Willis in Die Hard. Reach the little hill, slide down the incline and lay there prone. My whole body is soaked now. I'm very, very cold. The adrenaline is keeping me warm for now, but I knew I have to get out of these wet clothes soon or I could very well freeze to death. Wind is harsh. It's coming opposite me, up my back, crashing with the hill. I'm shivering despite my sweating brow. Crawl up a little, so I can get a peek out from above the hill. Nothing. I waited on that hill for what seemed like hours, but was in reality maybe 20 to 30 minutes, until the cold got to me and I had to move. I made it back home very slowly. I stayed in the brush and avoided any open areas. Every little noise sent me ducking from an invisible assailant. By the time I got back, I was absolutely frigid. I stripped down and changed clothes, though my coat and most of my good winter things were soaked. I just used heavy layers of long-sleeve cotton shirts, pajama pants, and my one other pair of jeans. The fire couldn't get hot enough for me. Never found out what was up with that guy. My guess is it was an impulse thing. One more, and I'll probably hop off for a while. Alright, so after the Hunter incident, my main goal was getting new boots. I had to keep using up good duct tape to tape mine together where it came apart while I was running. Weather is starting to clear up but it's still pretty cold, and rainy. Can't have a soggy foot all the time. Grocery bag liners only get you so far. Went into town a week after the incident, when I felt less paranoid and ready to travel. I got some leather boots. I don't know what kind they were. No brand, but they turned out great. They were waterproof, just leather. The tongue was connected on either side, kept everything out. They aren't warm at all though. Just unlined leather. With 3 or 4 pairs of socks though they do perfectly. I still have these boots today, though I don't wear them very often. Paid $15 at Salvation Army. Great buy. After this purchase I had about $6 left, and wasn't likely to get any more until landscaping season came around. I remember I bought a pack of cigarettes. I hadn't smoked since that first night. It felt like splurging on a gourmet dinner or something. It's the first thing I bought that I didn't consider essential. Yes, at the time, I considered my liquor essential. Sue me. I smoked one right outside the convenience store. It was heaven. I coughed, like I was smoking for the first time again. Awful habit, I know. Just got it on a whim, though. What else would I do with $6 anyway? Bought a can of Coke and just sat in the heat of the store's bathroom. You went in on the outside, so I guess nobody noticed me going to the bathroom drinking a can of Coke. I didn't want to sit inside even though the store had a little diner-style thing. 2 little booths and a counter, they sold fried chicken and burgers, that kind of thing. It always smelled so good. Good Lord. I missed good old American greasy fast food. I could smell it from the bathroom. I pretended I was sitting inside eating like a regular person. I wasn't really sleeping much in those days. A few hours, twice a night. My sense of time was really whacked out and I was always unsure what day or month it was. That bathroom sure was nice, though. It was clean, just a few sharpened scribbles on the wall around the toilet. There was a door, with a lock, that I was in control of for now. It was like a castle. I wanted to just stay there forever. I actually ended up taking a short nap there. I dozed off unintentionally while drinking my Coke. Luckily nobody had tried to come in. I don't think I was out long. I dreamed I was inside my old apartment. When I woke up I got an idea to do a very dumb thing. I wanted a night. One good night inside, with heat and a light. That's what I need, I told myself. Just one night, to recharge. If I get this one night, I'll have the strength to get my life together again. It was a grandiose delusion, but it honestly somehow made sense at the time. Do this thing, and it'll solve every one of your problems. I decided to either hide, or break in later, and spend a night in this bathroom. Story in green text follows. Looking around bathroom for hiding spots. No cabinet, but the ceiling was those big officey looking ones, with the little holes that make it look like a cracker. I moved one of the panels, some wiring, rat poison, and about 2 feet of space. Test the strength. Stuff my duffel up there, seems okay. The panels definitely won't hold me, and I doubted the thin wires suspending it from the roof would do much good either. Cheap flashlight. Look around. I found load-bearing supports farther away, but without the toilet or sink to stand on, I couldn't really just climb up there. Replace tile. Leave bag. Check outside. Nobody there. It's evening, the store closes at 9. I have a few hours. Discreetly leave. I don't know if the staff knew I went in there or not. Look around. I pulled a wobbly wicker chair out of a dumpster across the road. Left it in the tree line between properties. Hung out at the library for a couple hours. Didn't check Facebook. Browsed /k/and survivalist forum. 7 o'clock. Library closes. Go back and grab the chair. Carry it as nonchalantly as possible up the road past the store, then doubled back and set it behind the building. Go inside store, ask to use the phone. I called my day labor place even though I knew they were closed. Left a message about needing something now. Just wanted an excuse to go in and check out if anybody was shopping. Go back outside, around the corner. Check the bathroom, empty. Round the next corner and grab the chair. Took it in the bathroom. I climbed on the toilet and got my bag, then used the chair to get to the support beam. Stuff the bag up again, open it and fish out 2 shirts. Tie the shirts to the beam, letting them hang down. Take the chair outside, toss it in the weeds. Back to the bathroom. I twisted the shirts up until they were as rope-like as possible and used them to hoist myself high enough that I could grab the beam and climb up. In the rafters, my chest is on the big beam and my arms and legs are keeping balance on the small flimsy ones. I slid the tile back in place and just waited. It was 7 when I left the library, store closed at night. I had used probably an hour and a half getting to and from the library and setting everything up, so I estimated I had somewhere around 45 minutes to wait. Got real uncomfortable. I wanted to change position, the beam was digging into my chest on either side, it wasn't much wider than an average smartphone. Arms are cramping. I'm sweating. Why didn't I take my coat off? The door opens. Moment of truth. I listen to them cleaning up. They take the trash and leave. I hear the lock clicking shut. My time has come. Moved the panel. Bending my arm felt great. Cautiously peek out. All seems well. Descend from my shroud of darkness. Nice. Gif. I sat for a while, just looking around, enjoying the pleasantness of both privacy and comfort. I turned the sink on and let the water get really hot, and washed my face with hand soap. Never felt so clean. I had turned the light back on, so I was concerned about somebody seeing it under the door, so I stuffed clothes around the bottom of the door. Feeling safe, I sat back and started reading Murder on the Orient Express. Not a bad book, kind of fruity, but not bad at all. I loved the old-timey back and forth. Raw dogging spam out of the can with pocket knife, feel like a pimp. What's this in my duffel? Why, it's General Grant, and his never-ending flask of Old Crow. Well, don't mind if I do, General. What a lovely evening this has turned out to be. Proceed to get drunk, reading Agatha Christie and having conversations with the astute Inspector Hercule Poirot. This, as it turns out, was not a very good idea. Wake up to the sound of a lock turning. Morning shift has arrived. Older woman. Probably 45 or so. She screams. I scream. She starts calling the cops. She's calling the cops. I'm a homeless man with an empty bottle of liquor, a concealed, 2 if you count my knife, weapon, and absolutely no excuse as to what I'm doing. Grab my duffel, forgot my book, shit. Charge. I wasn't trying to hurt her at all, I just wanted to get the fuck out of there. Shove her aside, make sure to smack the phone out of her hand. Shout sorry, as I'm running away, open bag in hand and holding up my pants. I had unbuckled my belt in my drunken state for comfort. Retreat to the woods. Never go to that convenience store again. Follow up. I was going to make another green text, but I'm cooking dinner, so I'm gonna wrap it up a little quicker. I encountered that woman again, 2 weeks later when I went back into town. She saw me from across the street, pointed at me, and started shouting, You stop. You hit me. I tried to play dumb, but I knew it wouldn't work, so I sped up and kept walking. She followed me a ways, and got her phone out. Shit. She was calling the cops. That's perfect. I was pretty sure they didn't have anything really on me, but who knows. To nobody's surprise, I was picked up a few hours later going back towards the woods. The cops were okay. They knew that I stayed in the bathroom, but I don't think they cared too much. They said they were looking for the guy because the woman's phone was broken and she was pissed. I'd buy her a new phone if I knew how to get a hold of her. But, it's been real, you guys. I'm out for now. Maybe more some other time. I'll be checking on the thread every now and then if you guys want to shoot the shit a little, but as far as typing these long stories, this is enough for my tired fingers today.